Hey everybody, today we're gonna do a walkthrough of Falling. It's my brand new release, it's out now. If you haven't listened to it already, go do that. And we're gonna start with the mastering, because the mastering is wild. Alright, check this out. So the first thing I want to show you, this is what it sounds like without the master on. But with the master, and that is all due to this one ozone. So this is the sauce. This is what I do on all of my tracks. We have a multiband dynamics. There isn't very much going on here. I have an imager that's increasing the width on the high end. I have an exciter that's doing nothing really. I have an EQ. Mid-side split, I like this a lot. I take out the low end and the sides and I add more high end just on the side signal, but in the mids I take it away so that the sum is still the same, but it feels like the high end is a little bit wider. Very cool trick. Then I have a maximizer boosting a lot with minus 8.4. And this is basically where the whole sound comes from. The reason the kicks are way too loud in the non-affected version is because when they go through that multiband compressor, at the end they sound really good. Now this is not a good mixing habit. Don't do this if you don't have to. I did it because I changed the kick halfway through producing the track, and then I changed it again, and I changed it again. And at the end, I just ended up with this, and it sounded good after the multiband compression, so I left it in. But in reality, this is not how you're supposed to do it, just so that you know. But no one's stopping you. All right, let's have a look at how big the project is. The project is actually quite large. We have 150 tracks. I mean, there's some empty ones in between, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's break it down. Let's start off with the kick here. One thing that I was running into is that it sounded weird, like I said, so I changed it a bunch. And then what I ended up with is a bunch of kicks all doing similar things. So the first kick that I have is this, which is like kind of the main sound, but not really. Then I have this one, which is just the transient and just the low end. So in combination, all of these three give that kick. Now what you will have heard is that the first two kicks have a different high end than this one. Right? You can even see it down here. This one doesn't have as much high end here. And I did that, as you can see, with this EQ coming in. And I feel like that was necessary because with everything in here, the first few always hit like too harsh and then they became soft. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to automate the kick. And that is because it's going so hard into the master. If it was mixed better, this wouldn't be an issue, but I kind of like finagled it. It's not the most elegant solution, but I really like how the drums sound here. We have a little bit of an interruption by my cat. Now, this is a perfect opportunity for me to tell you that we have a remix competition ongoing for Falling. If you want to make a remix or you just want the stems, join the Discord, link is down below. You can get the stems, very easy, it's a Dropbox link, and you have 1 month to make a really sick remix. The winner is going to get a Spotify release, and we're going to do a massive watch party on Twitch, and the winners will also get a upload on YouTube. What are you waiting for? Go get them. Actually, watch the video and then get them. All right, let's continue. All right, then we have these chord stacks. I love the sound of these. The issue was that they weren't really like sounding the way they should, so I did a bunch of EQ. I took some of the high end out, I took more of the high end out, and then another EQ which takes more high end out. With all of that deactivated, you can see how the high end is like too harsh. It was too white noisy, so I removed that. And then I brought some of the white noise back in with the bass. Now the bass sounds like this. And you can see there's an automation here for a Pro Q3. And what this does is it actually automates the high end of the bass only to come in towards the end of the phrase. Check this out. I thought that was such a cool touch. With that high end, I'm basically fine removing it from the chords because I'm bringing it back in with the bass at the end. And the bass consists of 4 layers. Okay, let's go through those. So the first layer is just this, and without effects, it sounds like that. But with effects, it's basically creating grit, but it's slightly stereo. The way this is stereo is I'm using N-Noise, which is a NASCO plugin, big shout out. And I made the noise stereo. So every time a click happens, it dynamically adds a little bit of noise, but the noise is wide. That's why you get that like grit in the high end, which is very, very nice, but it's like slightly stereo. The next layer is a sub bass. It's very simple, actually. It has like a little bit of overtone action, but if I turn off everything that's doing overtones, you will see it's just a sine wave. Look at that, it's just a sine wave. If we activate this overtone, which is an octave higher, so it's the first natural harmonic of the fundamental bass here, you can hear there's like a little bit more texture coming in, and the waveform is like slightly morphed. Then we add a little bit of distortion. Actually quite a lot of distortion, and that's where most of the sound comes from. And then I just add a little bit of shaping with an EQ and a little bit more Saturn just to give it more drive. I think that's a really sexy bass. The next bass layer is this one. This is basically the pendant to this first bass that we had, right? But it's high cut so that it can focus just on the mids. I really like this. Is basically my Mo Falk bass. Very Mo Falky. There's like this thing that I always do. It's this preset, and then I have these effects. Let's go through them. I have Dirt, such a good distortion plugin. So without the effects, it sounds like this. With the Dirt, oh my god, sausage fattener? What? I mean, it works. Saturn. Imager. Oh, this is nice as well, because I think I'm spreading the high end, yeah. Not a good use of the Ozone Imager, but hey. LFO tools obviously for sidechain, and then a Soothe, probably to clean out. I mean, it's just to keep it clean. And then we have the last layer, which is this one. It's just creating more width in the bass, especially in the mids. And then all those basses together. And they were made because the basses from ZENEA, they were nice, but they weren't quite as thick. So I wanted something a little bit more wider, a little bit more controllable, because if you can only control the stem, like, it's not as nice, right? So, and there's also one other layer in here, if I can find it, which is doing like color things. This one. It sounds super cool, but an absolute nightmare to mix. So all of those together. And then on top of all of that, we also have these vocals playing. Very cool vocals in combination with the chords and everything else. It's just, it's so full. All right, little things I added. As you heard here, there's this high note here. And that's just to emphasize the turnaround here. So if I turn on everything again, right, there's the bass line, which we haven't touched at all yet, doing this crazy thing. And if I didn't have this, we only have this thing, which is like a melody, right, which is like a very, very basic sit lead, by the way, from the Twitch pack. Super solid. I use it all the time. No processing. If I also remove that, there was like an empty thing. And I really loved like the change in format there from that sound. So if I turn these back on down here, like that's cool as well, right? But then it's so focused on the bass. But with that, it's actually more focused on like the high-end glitter, kind of. It makes it so that the second bass note is like higher, even though it has nothing to do with the bass. It feels like the bass is doing do-da-boop, even though it's not. The bass is doing do-do-do, right? I don't know if that makes sense. I thought that was a cool detail to talk about. Oh, and actually talking about basses, in the second drop, I just realized we have this bass coming in. I know a lot of people really like it, including Zed, who played it, and it was fantastic. I still can't believe that happened. I think this is the part that really like hit it out the park for a lot of people that were really excited for this track. And let me show you how I made that bass. So one of the layers is this one, which is like the main sound, kinda. So the concept is you have a very low note and you have a very high note, and then you distort them together. We have a low note here, and we have a high note. And when you do that together and you put distortion on it. Another thing that's cool about this is usually what people do when they want 16th notes like this, they do it like that. They do 16th notes here. Right, but you don't get any swing, which is terrible. So what I do is I do half speed, but then I delay the second one a little bit, like this. And that way you get this like swung. Very, very cool. Then the next layer is this, which is just there to give it a little bit of width. Then the next layer is, I think, the main bass. Similar concept again. There's like this low note. But this one actually is keeping the low end so that it's actually the sub. And then to finish it all off, we have white noise, I'm pretty sure. Stereo white noise, which is just bright white with a stereo shaper. Don't at me. And then we have another layer. I don't know what this is doing. I guess more texture. I don't know how to justify this. There's a bunch of stuff on here. I didn't make this. This is a Samplifier preset. I didn't even know I had a Samplifier pack. All of those together, if I can find them all, sound like this. It doesn't actually sound that nice, but in context with the rest of the track, I feel like it makes sense. As you can tell, there's also a drone going on top of this. That's just ultimate sexiness. I don't know why people don't use drones more. Drones are super solid. Then we have these shaker loops here. These only play on top of the bass as well. And they give the whole thing like a lot more, I don't know, jank. It's like a little bit janky. The last thing is this organ thing that I think is super sexy that was in the stems. I think that finished it all off. Also, it's really important, I think, to like join A and B parts well. So the way we did it here was this ringtone and that laugh. That's like a little bit out there, but it like gets you really ready for something else. And going into that fat bass hit. Okay, so in the second part of the first drop, we also have this cool bell coming in here. I love the sound. I think it's really cool. If I turn off all the effects, like that ring that happens from the pitch bend, I feel like it's just different. All I did here is I added the stereo spreader to make it super stereo. I added the soothe so that it isn't as annoying because bells tend to have that resonance. A little bit of reverb. And you don't even really notice it when you listen to it, but when it's gone, you miss it. Check this out. Compared to, like, it just adds more depth, more width. It's so cool. Now, the last cool thing I think to talk about in the drop is this thing. Now, the last cool thing to talk about in the drops, I think, is this siren. Because usually when people add sirens, they just do... Right, and that would be okay, but I feel like this is a lot cooler. Adding actual notes to the siren. And then we have these breaks. Now, we have all of these effects that sound super, super sexy. Right, and where's that super crazy gurgle thing? Oh my god. But that was ZENEA's work. I have no idea how he does that. Sounds like convolution to me. But yeah, anyways, the breaks, yeah? It's getting late. Yeah, you gotta hold on me tonight, yeah. The idea with the breaks was I wanted to keep this. It's like the continuation of the drop. If I drop these here where the drop is, you can notice how like these notes are kind of what is happening in those gaps. Like, they aren't the correct notes here. There's no notes at all, but it feels like that's what they could be. So I wanted to have something similar in the breaks as well to bring the two together. Because earlier, we had a different break. It actually sounded a little bit more like this. I liked it, but I wanted to have it different. I wanted to have it softer. That was my first attempt. Then I have these drums that are like very, very, very lush and laid back. like very walking, you know, like you would expect this to be kind of drop drums. And then we have the super lush bass as well, playing this. It has like a very, very groovy vibe because the drop isn't as groovy either. It's very like dun, 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 right? So I wanted to have like I wanted to have something like that. And then on top of that, chords from Mr. ZENEA. And what was really important in this track is that a lot of the times I just cut the sound out where you wouldn't expect it like this. And actually we have a similar thing in the build-up as well here. Right, like it like takes all the breath away. I feel like it take my breath away. I think it's really cool effect. I love doing that. It brings like more impact to what's ever after. Right, you get like a little bit more, I don't know, it's just nice. All right, let's have a look at the vocals. The vocals I got in stems, as you can see. Some of them are wet, some of them are dry. I think I used mostly the wet ones.
I can't run, and I'm feeling you're the one to blame, yeah.
Massive performance from ILSE. There is really not much stuff going on. All I did is I have a multiband compressor on the high end, and all of these go into a bus so that I have all the vocals in one place.
I can't run.
Then I'm compressing them again, you know, just a little bit with a small ratio just to tame it. And then I have another multiband compressor to tame the high end more, because I think the stems had a lot of high end compared to everything else in the mix. And then since I'm bringing it up on in the master, if you remember at the very beginning, I showed you how crazy the master is. I had to take it out here dynamically. But that isn't all, because there's also this other vocal. And it's like really weirdly overlapping with the original vocal. So like if you hear them both here.
It's alright, I see that you've been calling.
I felt that was really weird. So what I did, I sent the vocal bus to that channel as a sidechain. And then on there, I used a soothe to dynamically sidechain the frequencies that are like problematic compared to the vocal. So the vocal is a sidechain for soothe to dynamically carve out where the main vocal needs more space in the mix, kind of. So when you look at it,
It's alright, I see that you've been calling.
it's like carving out only where the vocal is. It's very, very nice because it creates more space in the mix. And I did that a bunch. And I did that as well on the snares here, because the same thing happened with the snares. The snares are quite loud because, as you know, in the build here, there is no snares.
It's alright, I see that you've been calling.
Right? So when the snares come in later, they need to be really loud because everybody has to know, hey, it's a build-up. But they were really interfering with the vocal. So same thing. I put a soothe on the snares, sent all the vocals to that. And it's crazy. If I make that a bit more drastic, it actually sounds kind of bad on the snares. So let me do this. I don't know if that comes through, but you can't really hear that because it's masked by the vocals, of course. And the vocals get all the room they need. And it doesn't feel weird because there's like so much stuff ongoing, right? You can't tell that there's anything like that happening on the snares. It's a really, really cool trick. I do that a bunch to like separate the mix and give more room to stuff. And yeah, that's it, I think. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them down below. I will try to answer if it's possible. Otherwise, I might make a short or something like that. But anyways, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to do a remix. If you're down to make remixes, if you're a music producer and you want to make a remix, you can do so. Join the Discord, get the stems. And with that, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.